Animal tracking is the oldest form of interspecies communication. Connecting with an animal's footprint automatically puts us in touch with that animal's body and mind. My ability to communicate triggered when I was on a tracking course in the United States. Here I met John Young, a master tracker. He encouraged me to explore my abilities further. Expanding my nature awareness and tracking with John completely changed my life. John is a founder leader of a worldwide movement to help connect people with their natural heritage. Since childhood, John was mentored in traditional native tracking skills and deep nature connection.
You just stare into the footprint in a diffused, kind of relaxed way, and just, in a certain sense, begin talking. The way you need words, it's just sort of something starts to come. And then all of a sudden, out of the track comes a picture, and your mind is filled with an image, and it's a very clear image, and you couldn't have generated it yourself. There's so much information in that 1/1000th of a second, even in the look on the face of the animal looking back at you.
Now, the University of Vermont in the United States has recently asked John to create a course in nature connectedness and awareness. It will be a whole new field of study.
I also work with John around the world to reconnect people with nature and themselves. For a long time, John was the only person I could speak with about my ability to communicate with animals.
Okay, when did you first notice these skills coming on?
It was during our wolf tracking expedition 10 years ago. We were all woken at around 2 or 3 a.m. by the distant sound of wolves howling. I remember the next morning telling you about what happened to me in the night. When the wolves were howling, I had this spontaneous mini movie play in front of my eyes, which was the image of an elk kill, partially submerged in very shallow, muddy water, and the particular configuration of wolves and how 3 of them had walked slightly offset from each other, side by side, out of the water in a certain sort of sequence, and which direction they had done that. And I remember telling you about that the next morning, and a few hours later, one of the tracking teams that were out following tracks and sign found exactly that scene.
I remember that morning. We were able to verify that whole thing. We sat under those pines on that hill and looked out over that place. Remember, we had to take our time going in because the wolves were still there, and we had to wait for them to leave. And I'd just been heard howling. Yeah, I remember that like it was yesterday.
And that's where I really did a lot of research and discovered this whole field called interspecies communication. Meantime, continuing doing tracking and being out on trails and so on, by just opening my awareness and really softening my body and my mind, I would start to have more intuitive experiences.
When it switched on strong when I was 19, there was no going back. You know, and that was that experience that got me in so much trouble talking about publicly, you know, when I saw the silver lines for the first time and followed them right to the deer.
Sometimes it's just suddenly like this line of light appears on the landscape and I just start following it. And then it disappears. You know, it shows up long enough for me to know it's time to move. And then I start moving. And at that point, the rest takes care of itself. My body wants to go that way. It wouldn't go any other way. And then I discover, oh, there's that nice fresh track again. I look at it and I recognize that individual track again. It's the same individual, and I always have to laugh at myself. When you have that moment of reconnecting with the animal physically at the end of that trail, there's a moment of grace. I have to say, I get a little choked up each time, as I am right now, where I feel like, whoa, what a miracle that we live in a world like this. You know, that this could be possible. And I always give thanks in those moments to my ancestors, to the Creator, because that's what my elders told me. That's where it's coming from. And whether I understand that or not, it's irrelevant. I just feel incredibly blessed in those moments. And I wish life could go on forever.
Ta ata ta ko kwata kiamana ko te ni ko ngi pe sai se ve ya ta ko ko ata minu te kom ti te se sanda ta ma ata hi ko ka kiam manja ko khom ma ta ka si onu kum ta ko kwata shwe ti te mara pe hi ko ve ta ko ka kam ata shwe ni ko kom ti te